want it to be one way.
What?
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
You want
know
it
what
to
you...
be one
Man,
way.
stop. Stop saying that.
But it's the other way.
PBC kicks off the year March 30th, announcing their headline and co-headliners. Headliner being Tszyu versus Keith Thurman, and co-headliners being CRUZ versus Romero. Well, how do we feel about it? This being the first event that Amzn and PBC will be kicking off together, and it'll be a pay-per-view event. I don't know, it's a lot to unpack, but you know how we gonna carry it. It's your boy Claymore Rain. This is the ATP Combat Media Show. Let's go. All right. Bring it in. It's your boy, Claymore Rain. This is the ATP Combat Media Show. Welcome one, welcome all. Salute to all my subscribers in the building. If this is your first time watching this channel, I give you a suggestion to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon so you can get all the content when we drop it. PBC drops their new card, the debut card, kickoff card with Amazon Prime pay-per-view, may I add. And you know, there were rumors going around that it was going to be Tank Davis versus some mystery, you know, whether it would have been Frank Martin, CRUZ, Rayo, Venezuela, even rumors of him potentially even fighting a Subriel Matias even. I mean, the streets were just shaking with all types of potential fights and matchups that could be made for this kickoff card, being that they, this is going to be the first card and PBC is going to make a statement with this card. So what PBC's decided to do is, we're going to pull back a little bit off of that. I don't know if it's because of time constrictions or maybe, money hasn't been allocated in the right areas or spaces. I mean, we could speculate as to 100 different reasons, right? We don't know what it is at the end of the day, but this is what we do get. And what we can confirm that we're going to see Tszyu, I would say defend, but he's not defending because it's a catch weight fight. So I'll say Tszyu, WBO, the 150-pound WBO champion, is going to, I can't say defend because he's not defending the title. So I'll say that he's going to fight Keith Thurman as a headliner for this. Keith Thurman coming from a 25-month layoff from his last fight with Mario Barrios. And the last fight he had before that was about 2 to 3 years before that, where he actually fought Manny Pacquiao and lost that fight. So in the past 4 years, Keith Thurman has fought one time. Yeah, I think that's accurate. One time. And now he makes his return to be a headliner on a pay-per-view card against Tszyu and not even challenge Tszyu for the title because it's a catchweight fight and the WBO just won't sanction the fight, so it'll be at 155 pounds for his debut fight against Tszyu. As a co-headliner, we'll be seeing Romero defend his WBA title against CRUZ. So, and I believe there's some other names coming out as far as being determined as to what the undercard is going to be below them. I've heard rumors of even potentially a John Boots Ennis Mario Barrios fight, but don't quote me on that. But I believe Lara will be fighting on there. Fedora will be fighting on the card as well. There's some other fights that might be on the card, but regardless, to say that I have to be honest, man, and speak from. I don't want to be sarcastic, and I don't want to, lately I've been taking a stance, and trying to see how us as fans can, what can we do to, convince fighters to make, legacy fights, the best fight in the best fights, championships, championship belts, unification title fights, undisputed title fights, the great stuff that boxing is made of that, entices, gives the traditional fan vested interest, excites us, give us something that we want. How do we make that happen? Well, you hear the arguments about, these fighters, these A-side fighters, right? The Gervonta Tank Davises, the Terrence Crawfords, the Canelo Alvarezes, and so forth and so forth. And they're looking for legacy fights, but they're also looking for high payday fights. They're prize fighters first, right? So acknowledging that and understanding that, we see how Saudi Arabia has come on the scene and how they've facilitated a lot of fighters coming over there and fighting in Saudi Arabia and getting some of their biggest paydays that they ever were able to get. And they've expressed interest. His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh has expressed interest in helping the United States, the stateside version of boxing. Well, the stateside boxing, including the Gervonta Tank Davises, the Shakur Stevens, the Devin Haney's, and so forth, helping them generate big fights, facilitating big fights happening, and basically throwing their hat, their hat onto the stage, saying, "Listen, we can facilitate a lot of these fights. We're open for negotiations, and we're open to do some work." But there's been a resistance. It's been a very heavy resistance from other people in the boxing space who are more concerned of either protecting their fighters' A-side privileges, or maybe even, stopping certain fights from happening altogether. Maybe that takes away from the credibility of their fighter. Maybe that takes away from the fighter's record. I don't know. Maybe it takes away their privilege if they lose the fight. For whatever reason, push back on seeing these fights. And if these fights are going to happen, they feel like the B side is supposed to concede all the way to the A side's decision on how the fight should happen, right? Well, we're in a situation, on a conundrum right now, where the B sides of these potential super fights, they're a little bit more resistant to that mantra and way of doing business now, especially with a potential other option where maybe another country might be willing to pay more equally out, or compensate the B fighter a little bit better to make it worth their while, and encourage also enticing the A side fighter to give him what he wants, even more of what he would normally get, hopefully, and trying to see if they can be part of the reason why these fights are coming together and why we're getting to witness boxing history being made. And we're getting a lot of pushback, right? So the latest pushback right now that I'm seeing is that His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh is not a prince, right? Which I'm not confused as to, but I can say that I thought it was already understood that he wasn't a prince and that he was, like a minister of sports events, some title around that way. But ultimately, question being asked: does this mean because this man is not a prince that he's no longer a representation of the interest of the prince, of the royal family of Saudi Arabia when it comes to sporting events? And if he is still a representation of the interest, and he represents their interest when he speaks, when he says things like, "We have two mountains behind me. I have the prince and the king of Saudi Arabia who are backing my decisions and what we're trying to do in this country," that's not enough, because they can prove now that he's no longer of the royal family, or he's no longer a prince. Well, right now, everybody who ever put any faith into what he said are either liars, or don't know how to read the fine print, or we're pushing out fake narratives, and all these different things are coming out, right? And then you have their followers who are just like, I knew it. But ultimately, my question's always going to be, well, in the spirit of making great fights, in the spirit of putting together the best fighting the best, what are the current promotional companies here stateside willing to do? What are the fighters stateside willing to concede to inside of that price structure, and inside of that budget or business model that's out there to facilitate these fights? ladies and gentlemen, we aren't, and I'm going to continue to say this because it's the truth. The pushback is real. We aren't getting the fights we want to see. You guys know that just as well as I know that. We don't need to play these games. The games, because when you play these games as boxing fans, you got to understand when you play these games, we're the one who lose, the boxing fans, right? Because it doesn't change. That's one thing that you have to, it's kind of like being a black man and thinking that another black man's issues is, you know, is not your issue, right? Like, yeah, that's not my issue. No, this is an issue that's a universal issue across the table for all boxing fans, because we all watch these fights. They ask us all to pay the pay-per-views to watch these fights. We're all coming out of our pockets trying to see fights, right? So where's the focus on these fights being put together? Where's the demand from the fan base to see these fights put together? Because you see what they do. They go and they get a 25-year laid off, old, inactive, out of his prime, Keith Thurman, to go and fight a young, hungry Tszyu without a title even on the line, to headline a pay-per-view card. And they say, here, consumer, here's what you've been asking us to give you. Here's the fight you've been asking for. We're back at it again, guys. Yeah. So, you know, forgive me. Forgive me for asking more of the fighters that are out here right now and saying, be open-minded. Take into consideration opportunities that can help facilitate your monetary needs, but also facilitate the needs of your fans to see you fight the best. Forgive me for pushing back a little bit, because the last thing I want to do is to make any of these fighters who put their lives on the line every day feel like we as fans are not grateful for what you guys do. It's the last thing I want to do. But at the same time, I can't lie to you. There are fights out there that as a boxing fan, I need to see. I want to see the best fighting the best. Yes, for championship belts. Yes, for unification matches. Yes, for undisputed. Yes, I want to see all that. That's what we used to see. That's what our forefathers saw and looked forward to. Why in the world would we not want to see the same thing? But regardless, I digress. You know, who knows what pushback I'll get for these crazy, wild, far-fetched, radical ideas I come to the table with when I'm asking boxers to fight each other, when I'm asking Gervonta Tank Davis to fight Shakur Stevens or fight Devin Haney, or when I'm asking Canelo Alvarez to fight David Benavidez, or maybe even a Terrence Crawford, or when I'm looking for Tszyu to fight a Jermell Charlo for a unification title fight. Far be it from me. Far be it for me to push back and ask what's going on. After all, you are giving us great pay-per-view cards. You're doing the best you can, right? Old man Keith Thurman versus young bull Tszyu. No title on the line. And we all can see the writing on the walls for that, right? Because you're trying to preserve a fight with Terrence Crawford versus Tszyu. And you know, if Tszyu doesn't have that title, what vested interest is Terrence Crawford having to fighting Tszyu? So I get it. But once again, what is it going to take for us to see the best fighting the best? What is it going to take for the fans of boxing? What will it take for you guys to ask, push, demand for these fights? I guess I'll be the only crazy man out here pushing and asking for these fights, demanding that these fighters entertain all opportunities, give us a fight we want. Nobody's saying you guys can't get paid. I'm not even saying you're asking for too much money. But if there's an opportunity out there for you to maybe see the money, and you say you don't want to go even check on it, what are you saying to the fans? Be honest with yourselves, guys. What are they saying to you guys? I don't know. Just a crazy guy ranting on a platform on YouTube. You know how it goes. But let me know what you think. Go ahead, leave a message in the comment. Like, hate, love, subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you get all the content, all the alerts on the content we're dropping. And at this point, we out.
Yeah, they hate when you elevate. You're stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate.